Batcast 66. We're your dynamic duo. I'm Kendell.
And I'm Scott.
All right, and we are here to talk about Batman, the 1966 television series. We're going to go through it episode by episode every week and talk about the Caped Crusader and all his fun, zany misadventures.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this with you, Kendell. I'm glad you had this idea. And of course, you roped me in. Also because it's been forever since I've actually watched the series. So it's going to be fun to kind of revisit it as we go here. And then, of course, you can't do anything just for fun in this grind set world. So we have to make a job out of it. So that's a podcast.
Yeah, here we go. We got a podcast.
Yeah. So we should probably explain to people why this show. Because even though I think public perception has softened to it, there's still, like, in my experience, is still considered the black sheep of Batman stuff amongst Batman fans. But I can speak for myself where, like, I watched this as a kid and I love it. And I think it's a genuinely funny and earnest show.
Yeah. I think the 1966 series really puts it all out there, like what is fun about the Batman character. As I'm sure everyone listening knows, Batman is a very versatile character. You see him in so many different situations, like he's grim and gritty, as we've seen in the past however many movies. But he can also be real silly and fun.
I'm glad they kind of bring that out a little bit relatively recently, because Batman the Brave and the Bold has elements of that. Lego Batman has elements of that. So I'm glad that there's still a place for that, because I think it's really silly to take Batman so seriously, in general, that it's a silly concept to begin with. I think having some fun with it is great. It's an apples and oranges thing. My two favorite Batman movies are the Adam West Batman movie and then the Dark Knight / The Batman. I'm not sure which one I like best, but you get two different experiences with the same basic idea. And I think that's a real strength of the character, that you can put him in you can just throw Batman in space and it can make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Me and Scott, both avid comic readers, and I'm sure we've read that storyline multiple times, Batman in space.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I guess we should also show people that we're not just right off the street plebeians. I'm one of the co-owners of a comic book store, Level Up Entertainment. We just celebrated our 15th year of existence. Read tons and tons of Batman. It always goes between Batman and Spider-Man at the moment, which who's my favorite superhero. And Kendell and I have been comic book, we've been buddies since high school. But we used to go to the comic book store every Wednesday with our group of friends. We'd all buy a ton of comics and then go to a house, one of our houses, and just read them together. Because that's how we, you introduced me to Invincible and The Walking Dead, and then I think I picked up Sandman and Swamp Thing and Vertigo titles, and you would read mine.
Yeah. We traded a lot.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was kind of the experience that kids in the 30s and 40s had. It's just we were in high school in the early 2000s.
Yeah, there we were. You kind of touched on it a little bit, but yeah, what's your history with this Batman TV show?
So it was just one of the things that had been in syndication in the late 80s, early 90s. Between this and sorry, can you hear my dog? She's growling behind my couch because she wants my attention. If you hear her, let me know. But no, it must have been in syndication in the late 80s. Early 90s, in addition to Super Friends, and I remember when Batman and Robin teamed up with Scooby-Doo and the new Scooby-Doo movies was super exciting. They're not all this show, but when I was a little kid, your brain just kind of conflates them all together. And then so I had a real soft spot for this kind of era and style for Batman. And then I think I was 10 or 11, and I biked down to the local video rental store, and they didn't have sometimes they would lose the covers for movies, and I wanted to rent the Batman 89 movie, which is called Batman, and they had a thing on the shelf that said Batman the movie. So I'm all right, that's got to be what that is, not knowing that there was an Adam West Batman movie. So I rented that, took that home, and it's starting with its like psychedelic opening credits. I'm like, is this like a trailer or something for the original show? And then it starts going into it, and then like the thing with the bat repellent shark spray. I'm like,
Shark
what?
repellent.
Yeah, the shark. Yeah. And it's like, but anyway, I just started watching it and I got sucked into it. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And I didn't know it existed, so I was really excited to see it because it's also got like the 4 best villains together in it. But we'll end up talking about that movie a lot. That movie is one of my like top 5 like put on whenever kind of movies. Like we recently just saw it at a drive-in in Pennsylvania. You know, it's never gonna not be that. But like the '80s show is like my favorite Batmobile. Like there's so much stuff about this show that like sticks with me and that I love. I actually owned this Batman costume because for Batman Day, like in 2017, I think it was 2017. I was like, you know what? I kind of just want to get this costume and I'll surprise everyone because I didn't tell anyone I was going to dress up except for our friend Joe, who he was talking about maybe doing Commodore Schmidt-Lap or something because he's got a beard. But then I was like, you should do the Joker and just paint your whole beard white because Cesar Romero painted his mustache instead of shaving. And so we ended up doing that and he made like a surfboard and like shorts and stuff. It's been a lot of fun and I really enjoy this series. But how about you, bud?
Oh, let's see. Probably very similar trajectory, very big into that 1989 Batman movie, you know, in an effort to keep my sister and I entertained. My mom took me to the video store or the video rental store that she rented us the 60s Batman movie. And yeah, that's what she watched as a kid was the television series. And I loved it, you know, like you said, has all the best villains.
Yeah, and one of the things I specifically like, I think why it resonates as a kid is like as a kid I took it seriously, but as an adult I see that they're going for like this like absurdist, goofy, tongue-in-cheek kind of humor. But as a kid, like it's like, oh no, Batman's gonna die at the cliffhanger. Like,
oh yeah,
it nails that. Like, so it's enjoyable by all ages, and I think that's a major strength to it. Because like, as much as I love say like the Batman. Like, as a kid, I'd be so bored by it. It's also like super long, you know.
Very much for an adult, the Batman.
Yeah, and like I do feel kind of bad that there's not really like this is a bigger problem with like superhero media in general now. But there's not like shows of like kids don't have their own versions of a lot of these characters. All of the DC movies are like gritty and miserable, and like
or canceled,
or we'll just never see them
starring complete maniacs. Definitely a bummer. But yeah, I unfortunately like was very rarely able to catch the TV show as a kid. I remember one episode where Batman, for whatever reason, was using his cape in like a bullfighting scenario.
Yeah, he was doing like a matador thing.
Yeah, and I just had like no context for that. I was like, what's happening? But I was into it. I think I saw that episode and a Mr. Freeze episode.
We'll get to it eventually. Mr. Freeze is kind of weird in this show where there's like every time he shows up is a completely different character.
I'm into it. He's not the only one, you know?
Yeah, there's a few of those. But I am glad in the last decade or so they kind of had a resurgence with the comic book series. Adam West and Burt Ward came back and did some animated movies, which honestly I have yet to watch, and I think I'm going to hold off on watching them until we eventually do like maybe a special episode of this podcast talking about them.
Yeah, I feel like this podcast, you know, we can get a lot of mileage out of the TV series, but I'd like to hit some auxiliary Batman 66 material, maybe talk about that comic book series for an episode.
Oh yeah, I would love to. That comic book series was one of my favorite, probably still is one of my favorite comic series of the last 10 years or so. I'd have to look up when it came out exactly, but it reminds, like, stuff like this kind of reminds me like why I like superheroes, because it's really easy to get jaded. Now I have a different perspective because I work in a comic book store, so I'm like constantly surrounded by like the current things going on in comics, but like it feels like such a chore to like read them sometimes there's like constant events and crossovers, and then you start seeing like the same kind of stories over and over again. And then like every time there is character development, like it reverts back to whatever their most marketable form is. But like some of the Batman 66 stuff and like some of the stuff like inspired by it, like Batman the Brave and the Bold, like kind of reminds me like why superheroes are enjoyable. Like they're kind of fun and goofy, but like if you buy into their world, like there's like heightened stakes and drama. You know, it's fun, and like I kind of miss fun sometimes. If that makes any sense. That sounds way more cynical and depressing than I mean it to.
No, but I totally hear you. If I could show the Kendell who was, reading comics on Scott's living room floor in high school, the comic books I pick up now, you're like, oh, where are all the superheroes? But
I'd say I personally get almost no Marvel or DC.
Yeah, same.
That's not to say they don't put on anything good, because they do. It's just my personal buying habits have changed, and my tastes have changed over the years too, and that's fine. That's part of growing up, and and being a person. That said, they still put out stuff I'm interested in. Like, but I mostly like wait for the trade now. Like, I'm excited for Superman: The Space Age series to be done. But I know you're excited for that because you're a big Mike Allred fan.
Yeah, who did the comic book covers
for the
final issue of the 66.
Yeah, he did the final issue of the ongoing, but we'll get into that when we talk about the comic. But then there was a lot of stuff after the fact.
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff.
A lot of great stuff. A lot of really cool stuff. Like I said, we'll get to it when we get to it. But,
yeah, you brought up the Scooby-Doo crossover, and I totally wasn't even thinking about that. But that's like totally, like, I'm pretty sure Adam West and Burt Ward are the voices of Batman and Robin.
I want to say they are, but I'm not positive enough to make that claim on the internet, where people can then comment that I'm wrong and dumb.
If I'm making the claim, if I'm wrong and dumb,
so you make the claim that they are, and I'll make the claim that they're not. That way, the podcast in general is right.
Yeah.
So we'll say that.
There we go. But yeah.
But those are some of my favorites as a kid. When they came out on like a DVD with just those 2 episodes, I was like, well, I have to buy that.
Heck yeah.
And Joker and Penguin at the time were like my favorite villains. I've cooled on Joker a lot in general. I think they go to the Joker well far too often in Batman, like full stop. But Penguin's my favorite Batman villain. But we'll talk about our favorite villains as they come around too.
Yeah, I'm really excited for any episodes with those two.
Or the Riddler.
The Riddler.
See, like normally I don't like the Riddler, but like I love this version of the Riddler. Like, so because there's like versions of the characters in this that I prefer to like their quote unquote modern incarnations. So that'll be cool. I'm excited. Once we get our groove going, maybe we can bring in a couple of friends every once in a while, do some very special episodes.
Yeah.
I know our friend Joe, like I mentioned already, is like big into this. So your wife likes the movie, so maybe when we talk about that.
Yeah, we'll bring them all in.
Yeah. But for the most part, it's going to be, extend out the Bat family here.
Excellent. Well, yeah. Anything else on Batman 66?
Well, hopefully this all sounds good, and you guys will like subscribe to us wherever you're getting this podcast right now, and then like and share and send it to your friends so we can. If people are listening to it, it'll be all the more exciting to keep doing it. But I don't know. Like I've said with my other podcast, I just did it for fun, and once it stopped being fun, I stopped doing it. So as long as you and I are enjoying this, whatever, that's good enough for me. I like hanging out with you, and I like watching this show. So I think that'll be reason enough to keep doing this every week.
Yeah, for sure.
Knock on wood, maybe we'll discover it's the thing that finally tears us apart after 20 years of friendship.
Oh, I hope so.
Yeah.
Batman tore them apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hope y'all listened. We hope y'all are ready to dive deep into anything we can find about these goofy episodes. All the episodes are available on Blu-ray, DVD, and right now, as of this recording, you can watch the show on Amazon Prime.
I think you have to pay for it, though, right? It's not a part of the Prime membership.
I think you can watch it free with ads. But
Okay.
that I haven't looked at it on there in a while. So
I
that
will
might
be
change.
I will be using the Blu-ray. I personally don't like giving Amazon money if I could avoid it. So that's a whole other conversation for
A
another.
whole other conversation.
For not this podcast. But like I fortunately do have it on Blu-ray, so it's the whole thing. So I'm excited to finally, well, not finally, but like, fire up my PlayStation 4 finally after not playing it since the Spider-Man game came out, and get that rolling on my television.
Heck yeah. I'm just stoked to watch it.
Yeah, man. All right, so I guess with that, we'll see same bat time, same bat channel, or whatever we end up having our outro be.
Yeah. We're working on it. Work in progress. Hopefully by episode 1, it's going to be so streamlined, you'll think we've been doing this for years.
Yeah, this is mostly kind of test out our equipment situation.
Test out our equipment, let people know what it's about.
Yeah, it's a good intro, I think. Maybe people will find our personality so charming they'll just tune in for that, regardless of what we're talking about.
I hope so. Everyone have a good day, night, whatever the heck it is.
Whatever time it is, make it the best time.